Mm, Good morning. It is September 15th, 2025. Welcome to Coffee Talk. Off last week. No Coffee Talk last week. However, there was a special episode that released to go into a little bit more detail on the total loss verdict, Chadwick versus State Farm from here in Arkansas. So if you, I hope you guys found that, but if you did not find that, there we weren't completely without content last week, just a little late getting back. So a little catch up on Coffee Talk to do today. It's technically been, I guess, 2 full weeks since the Coffee Talk episode. Luckily, or thankfully, however you want to look at it, wasn't a whole lot of anything special going on. Really, I think we're at that quiet time, um, approaching the fourth quarter. Not too much going on, but just a few things we want to talk about today. Selfishly, very selfishly. I mean, why have a podcast if you can't promote your own stuff, right? I mean, maybe one day I'll do like what is it? Why is my mind going blank? The football guy, the New Heights podcast with the Kelsey boys. Maybe I'll one day be at their level and I'll get to launch my own beer, which I think I could very effectively sell. But why have a podcast if you're not going to promote your own material and classes? And so we've got a new C20, which is our virtual 20 groups, a new one of those that's launching next month, and a new class that comes out next month as well. We're going to talk about those. Tesla lawsuits continue to increase and expound and add up. And so I'm just going to keep beating that dead horse a little bit over and over. We're going to talk about the hacker that was linked to the Tesla verdict in Florida. A little follow up on the GM issue. So for a couple, I think the last coffee talk before this one. So we had a break in there. There was a post online about the GM's website, how it listed certified shops being all messed up. And some very interesting things came out of the postings that were online. And we collected all of those very interesting things. We're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about hackers and hacking as that continues to just amplify and pick up. And then, us in the collision space. Is Copart a competitor for collision repair shops? Well, not something I thought about until the CEO of Copart decided to make us think about it. But we're going to think about it together this morning over a cup of coffee. And then the Michigan Department of Insurance has sent out a warning, which that's not a very active DOI. So this was very interesting, and I think it's one of the craziest cases I've heard of. You're going to say, I can't believe that actually happened. I was reading the whole thing going, I can't believe this actually happened. But and if I can't believe it, that's probably, but it's a nice reflection of where we really are in today's claims world. And I think we just got to keep kind of talking about that openly and kind of sharing where we are with those things. All right, let's just get right to it because we got stuff to do today. Expectations versus reality. Now, I get into this discussion a lot with collision repair shops and collision repair industry people when we're talking about litigation. And everyone kind of wants to go, well, you'll never win because of X, or you can't win because of this. And a lot of it is what people believe the expectations of people are, and then the responsibility. So I know when we were back with the Shebashan case and the John Eagle, everyone was like, it's not really the shop's fault because he got hit by a Tundra going 70 miles per hour on the freeway. And we like to kind of think that there were all of these other things that either nullifies a one person's potential liability or responsibility in a case. So there are several of these Tesla Cybertruck fire lawsuits where people allege after collision or after an incident. This happened, this one out of Texas is, I've been told, the first one. This was the first one, and there were other fires after this one. But after a collision that the vehicle was in, the occupant was unable to exit the vehicle. It caught on fire and burned them to death because apparently the doors open and close by the electronic system. Now, this was a single car accident. The driver of the vehicle was legally drunk. There was also appears to be a separate case against the bar for over serving this person. So there's this mitigating circumstance, right? But still, is the automaker liable for this? And what I thought was interesting is just this little snippet out of this to share. The lawsuit says that the Cybertruck's electrically operated doors can't be opened once power is cut, exterior handles fail, and the manual release latches inside are unreasonably difficult to locate in an emergency. So there apparently isn't like a ripcord, exit the vehicle, sort of like the trunk of a car has those. The Tesla filing continues that when the customer took possession of the vehicle, like delivery, like I bought this vehicle, I went to get it, that the OE failed to give sufficient warnings and training on how to exit. So if you're going to create a vehicle that everything opens and closes electronically, and that if there is a catastrophic power failure, you can't get out of the car unless you do X. There should have been training before you could take delivery of the car. Interesting approach, probably not unreasonable, right? When you think about it, like what it should be. But as I continue to read all these cases that are affecting the OEs, obviously most litigation, nobody, I don't want to say nobody, there are a few people, but most people, most plaintiff attorneys want to go after the OEs. But Tesla just seems to be like just a wave and wave and wave. I saw some things in the paper Thursday or Friday. I'm gonna get lose track of that, where class actions against Tesla have been certified in California. Those cases are going to move forward, and it's just like case after case after case. And they're going back to that responsibility. Like, did you have a responsibility? It didn't matter that the customer was obviously very intoxicated, obviously ran off the road and got in an accident on their own, single car collision, but did you have a responsibility to have provided some sort of education? Was there something that you should do? It continues to make me wonder about collision repair, because what are our expectations and responsibilities? So what are the consumer expectations of us? What are our responsibilities? What are our liabilities? What do we have to do when we deliver the car? How do we validate that we have returned everything in its functioning? So that, I always say, I don't trust an OE. I don't trust an OE at all. I mean, that's just me. But if someone can drop, kick, and punt and put something onto the repairer, like the John Eagle case was, then there's so much more now, and there's so much more spotlight attention on the automotive side of this business, particularly around EVs. Um, God bless the shops that have been Tesla certified collision repair shops, because I think that's a huge spotlight on you. Like, and what will come with that, and what the expectations were for you because you carried that little, certificate. What the expectations of Tesla actually will be on how they've handled their certified collision repair network. It's going to get very, very interesting. Apparently, there are three more of these trapped in the vehicle, can't get out cases. Um, I don't know if those also had death or if they were just whatever, but imagine like your battery just stops working. We've all seen the cases of the battery that just stops working for some reason, and then you're like trapped in this car. And I remember when they were doing the like the deliver like the pre-orders, and you had like Elon and all them doing the pre-orders, and they were showing that you couldn't break the glass, and they were throwing like stuff at it. I'm like, well, then how do I get out? I clearly can't break the glass to get out. Like, kind of scary. Will never own I will never own a Tesla product, but I don't think I could own a vehicle in which my ability to exit the vehicle relies solely on electricity. I got trust issues anyway, right? So that would be another one. And here is another reason why I have serious trust issues with Tesla specifically, besides what I personally believe they are doing to shops that were in their certified network. Let's go back to the Florida case. So we mentioned it a little bit. When the Florida verdict came out, and it was $243 million against Tesla. Tesla, prior to this case in Florida, had honestly done, I don't want to say a good job because that's not fair, but of dismissals and basically saying driver's fault. So we go back to that responsibility versus expectations and all those things. In this case, They were not able to get this one dismissed, and the verdict came up. But at the central heart of most what most attorneys believe is why that verdict was what it was, because Tesla wasn't found totally liable. Obviously, the driver of the vehicle admitted wasn't paying attention, wasn't doing whatever. They were found partially liable, but that partial liability was such a huge dollar amount. And most of it came down to this feeling of untrustworthiness. So, the Tesla, with all of its cameras, does captures a lot of data at the moment of an accident or the moment of a loss. Really central right now into accident litigation is the retrieval of the information. So not just the black box, like Larry and his engineering firm do a lot of black box readings, and that's more like, a lot of math and 5 seconds in these systems. But now all these camera systems, infotainment, safety, all that stuff is recording a lot of information, and some of that information stays in the car. And Tesla is one of those. I mean, we've heard the stories of, like, you could, people have pictures back when it was, I guess, trendy to vandalize Teslas, depending on your political feelings or leanings. But you had people that would, you would get recordings of the people that were vandalizing the cars, and so that was assisting people with I guess, prosecution. It captures all this. Well, Tesla had told the plaintiffs that the information was missing. So any of that pre-crash data, all of that stuff, the car, they kept telling them that they didn't have it. It wasn't there. It was missing information. And here's what's interesting. A hacker who online is known as Green the Only, that's his handle. Apparently, while the vehicle was at a Starbucks, because I first thought he was like, he's at a Starbucks. No, apparently the vehicle's at some sort of Starbucks or whatever in the parking lot. But while this guy's sipping on a latte, right? They get in the car, find the file, download it, give it to the plaintiffs. So they found all the data from the autopilot system. That is a picture. I'll go back. I'll share that back up there with you. There was two pictures released of what the car saw. So you see the vehicle parked. It's at the road ends. It's obviously, you come up to a T in the road, you got to go right or left, and you have all these warnings that says, hey, you got to stop, the road's ending. The vehicle that the Tesla hit and killed one occupant, seriously injuring the other. These were the people that were stargazing, so to speak. I'm going to assume, but so you see the vehicle's actually on the other side of these signs, and the Tesla blows right through it all, and plows into them. So that information was available. It says the hacker, known online as Green the Only, recovered the deleted snapshots last fall. Said it only took him minutes to find the files, and he did confirm through the car's history that all the files had been transmitted to the Tesla servers immediately after the wreck. So he was able to prove that Tesla had it. The reconstructed data showed that the Tesla's cameras spotted a vehicle roughly 170 feet away and a pedestrian about 116 feet away. So it identified the vehicle and the person outside the vehicle, and the car plotted a path through the couple's parked truck. So the car had seen it, and it verified it and had kept going. It's very interesting, all the data that these cars have in them. But it's mind-boggling to me. So we're having a lot of discussion in the industry right now over the Right to Repair Act. There's some people in this industry that are for it. There's some people in this industry that are against it. And a very good op-ed piece was released last week by a body shop who is against it, basically saying, hey, right now I can get all the information I need to repair a car. Like, I don't know what else we would need. But if right now, while a car's sitting in the Starbucks line, someone can hack into it, get out the information that the OE said doesn't exist, and share that information out there, there's just a lot that it's going to take to keep the cars safe. That's a lot that it takes to keep us safe. We're getting hacked in our businesses, right? We've had jobbers be hacked. We've had the used parts industry a month ago, they got hacked and went down for like 5 days. Like, there's all of this stuff going on. Obviously, there's the white hat hackers that do a good job, like this was able to help this family get the information that Tesla was telling them didn't exist, whether that was an error or Tesla just didn't know they had it or whatever. I mean, that was Tesla's claim. Like I said, people believe that this fact alone is probably what led to the verdict, because if they just didn't believe that Tesla didn't know that they had the data. And when juries decide to punish, that's just kind of what they do, right? That's I used to tell it my adjusters and when we're in insurance, you'd be very, very careful. You're you're a large company and people don't like you. So if they want to punish, there's bad things that can happen there. So definitely something interesting. I just like I said, I just don't trust Tesla. I've not found them trustworthy on the way that they handle their certified collision repair program. I've not found them trustworthy with how they handle consumers that contact them with problems about the certified collision repair program. And then the ability to hack those cars and apparently get such information out of it. I think as collision repairers, we still have to keep thinking those cars are going to leave here and we may see them again. We may be part of something that happens. Like, what more discussions or what more could we or should we be doing about protecting those cars while we have them? I mean, I was just sitting there thinking, going, God, if I don't do the right well, let me just say, I got a case going on right now where a vehicle's in protected custody, right? The vehicle's protected from anybody else getting to it, whether it's the plaintiff side, the defendant side, the state police, or whatever. It's in this sort of protective holding status right now, which is really interesting. It's the first one of these I've ever had like go through this type of like lockdown on the car and then deciding what's going to get done to it and then how many people get to show up and watch it. Like there's some talk about having to set up like a theater display. I feel like it's like medicals. Have you seen those old medical schools where it's like people are all sitting around and there's an operating room and everybody, you got like 50 people watching a surgery. But I get a feeling this is what's going to happen with this car. We're going to have to set up some sort of theater type environment where probably 900 lawyers and various engineers or whatever are going to watch this car be taken apart. But anyway, what I was thinking about is like if a car visiting a Starbucks and the car and you connect and there's however this hacker, this green the only gets into this car because I'm not computer inclined. That's not my thing. And he's able to get into this car, go through all of its files, find an accident history file from wherever or whatever, extract that, and then give it to whatever. What happens if somebody just like decided at night while I was, I lock the door at 5 o'clock and I go home and they pull into my parking lot? Can they access the cars that are in my shop? Like, and what? Like, what would they be getting out of them? And how am I protecting them? And what do I need to do? Is that like, do I put it in service mode? Is that, I'm thinking of Tesla. Does disconnecting the battery help? Like, how do I prevent these cars from, it's kind of scary to think about what these hackers can do to cars. And so, no, I will say I'm not a fan of the Right to Repair Act. I'm not a fan of anybody and everybody being able to fix a car. I understand the arguments about how scarcity makes things more expensive, and if more people are available or can fix a certain system or whatever, it would control cost. But I'm not necessarily worried about the cost of ownership as much as I am worried about the cost of human life that's running around these vehicles. And that conversation will pick up. Hopefully the OEs become a little bit more as this stuff like this happens and we start looking at it and going, do I really think everybody that just wants to open a body shop or a mechanic shop or whatever should be able to access anything on a car they want to? Probably not. That's probably not really good for humankind. We can make the economic case, but then we have to make the humankind case. So I thought that one was really interesting and just sorry. Personally, I don't believe that they didn't know they had the data. So I guess I don't like hackers until it's something that's okay. Pure marketing plug. Like I said, what's the point of having a podcast if you can't push your own stuff? So we got a new class that's going to be coming up. It's going to be October 21st through the 23rd. That's 3 days. It will be virtual all 3 days. No flying to Arkansas to come in here and hang out with us. We've worked, well, I don't want to say we're still working. So, it's like herding cats around here. Working really hard to get this class as granular because we won't be out in the shop touching a vehicle on this one. So what we've done to try to shoot the vehicles in 3D and be able to kind of work around that on some things. We're going to talk about post-repair inspections because they're going to become more and more important to this industry. You're either going to perform or you're going to suffer from somebody else's performance of a post-repair inspection more and more than ever before. Now, I'm a huge fan of them. Yesterday afternoon, I was warring with some guy on Facebook because he went on one of Larry's posts. Um, Done correctly, they are valuable not only for the consumer, they can be valuable for a body shop's business, and they can be valuable for the industry. Done incorrectly, they can be detrimental to the consumer, more importantly, and then secondarily to your business. That's anything in life, right? You do it the right way, things are great. You do it the wrong way, it goes really bad quickly. And I've seen people starting to perform more of them, which I am grateful and happy for. But we do need to talk about the do's and the don'ts and the what's wrong and what's right and how a body shop should. You're having more and more people probably pull into your shop and go, "Hey, I got my car fixed at such and such, and something's just not right. What do I do?" Traditionally, in this business, we've tried to like shy away from that because we've been afraid of what it might do. Hey, my house isn't clean. How dare I pick on somebody else or bring out somebody else's flaws? And that's just part of business, right? Like the consumer deserves to be educated on their vehicle and to know what kind or type of repair they got. If you're worried about your house, then that probably ought to tell you all you need to know about how you truly feel about your business. But we're going to talk about a lot in this one. First, we're going to talk about the legal forms that you need to have if you're going to perform post-repair inspections. Most people think, oh, just sign this authorization to disassemble here and we're good to go. There's a little bit more levels there. With some of the legal considerations for performing post-repair inspections, particularly when DRPs are involved, what that inspection process actually looks like and what it's not. We don't write estimates on post-repair inspections. Some of the required documentation you'll need. We're going to talk about when engineer involvement has to happen, what as a collision repairer I can say and what I can't say. I can feel something, but I don't know it. I'm not educated enough to be able to say, or I don't have a piece of paper because sometimes I think I know, I don't have a piece of paper that says I can say these things. What's certain when an engineer or when a specialist needs to get involved, how you present the findings and how you don't present the findings. And then we have a couple of actual cases that have gone from post-repair inspection all the way through to depositions and a ruling and whatever. And we're going to walk through those. Some really well, some went horribly wrong, and there was some juggling that had to be done at the end of that, but we're going to lay those out. I'm going to talk about it from like an insurer's perspective. When shops used to call me and go, "Your DRP butchered a car." Like, what did I need to be able to do something instead of you just calling me and telling me you didn't like a repair that somebody else had done? So we'll walk through that process, how you can do that without being how to be disagreeable, how to be disagreeable without being friction filled in it. We don't have to agree. I can deliver you bad news and do it in a good way if I do the right thing. It's a great class. There is like so the same with the last class Mark Olson and I did. There's no cap. There's no like sells out whatever. That's the beauty of a virtual. Typically, when we would do this class live, we could take 10 people. But with it being virtual, there's no cap on who can come, but definitely a good class. Um, you're going to see courtroom Larry in this class versus online Larry. So I feel like that alone is worth attendance. But wait, there's more. We are launching our sixth 20 group. So if you didn't know, there's 5 others that you can participate in. The new 20 group is for ADAS, and its direction will be just for shop owners and estimators, like, our managers or whatever. It's going to be led by James Rodas and the guys from OEM Calibration. There'll be lots of guest speakers and people coming in. I wanted a group where I don't want to say I can control the information because I don't know enough about ADAS to control the information. I just know that there's a lot of misinformation out there, be it a company that wants to sell you their services or somebody that wants to sell you a tool or a targeting system or whatever that is. It's hard to figure out what the right thing is. Some people tried to bring it in-house and then that wasn't the right thing. Some people tried to outsource it to a third-party vendor and then we found out the vendor that we were looking at wasn't the right thing. Like it's really hard to figure out what you can and can't do. And sometimes it's limited by the market you're in. Like, the perfect solution, I always say I love the fixed operation centers like Eccentric, what they have. But we don't have all, I mean, that there's just a few cities that have that. So if you're not in one of those places, what do you do? That's what this group is going to talk about and sort through. But we're going to look at it mostly from an estimating perspective as well. So now that I know all these things, how do I write estimates and get paid for it? And then how do I do that under limitations, be it an agreement an insurer has made with a provider, or be it a DRP agreement or whatever, and kind of handle some of those problems. I got involved in one last week. A provider that states they have an insurance agreement, or let's just say the insurance company states it. A shop gets a $3,000 quote for what it's going to take to fix this car. The insurer gets involved, and suddenly the $3,000 quote's a $500 quote. And we're all like, I don't like, I'm okay. If you want to do $3,000 worth of work for $500, that's your decision. It's your business to run. I just need something that's verifying that all of this stuff that was going to cost 3,000 is now going to be done for 500. So we were just all really confused. And that's what this group is going to do. We have picked and slated the first 4 topics, and we have given the dates for those 4 topics. So if you join this group, you already know when your first meetings are going to be. Dates. We're going to finalize that time. This will probably be an after hours group that will start sometime around 5 p.m. Central Time. But the 4 dates and the 4 topics. After that, we're hoping that the group helps choose topics so that we can start addressing the things that are there. The group is obviously there's a lot that goes into running the groups. Our C20 groups. So we have this one, the other 5 that are there. So we have the new ADAS. We have a insurer and customer relations group. That one's mine. We have an estimating group with Larry. We have a refinishing group, and that's Jim Kavadik and Danny Kirchner out of Zimmerman's out of Pennsylvania. We have a finance group for personal and business finances that's run by Rachel James. And then we have a marketing group. So for independent collision repair shop business owners, how do you market your business? And that's run by Tom Zoblin and his team at Stratosphere Media. And then he's helping people understand Google ads and keywording your websites and, all these things to try to help get more car count to your facility. Those are our 6 total C20 groups. They meet every month. So if you're a VIP, you're a member of all 6 of them. So every month you get training 6 times a month. It goes into a video library. You get to save those, go back and refer to them. That's what I tell everybody on Larry's estimating classes. I'd save it by impact. He wrote a front end, he wrote a rear, he wrote a side, he wrote a whatever. And then I'd save it by make model. So that when one of those cars came in my shop, I'd go, oh, let's go look at the reference estimate before we lock and finish what we're doing. But this 20 group will be focusing on ADAS. I'm excited because if I'm frustrated, I'm pretty sure everyone is frustrated. In my mind, I think for a lot of collision shop owners, we want ADAS to be something we don't have to think about, because we have to think about the welding, and we have to think about the suspension, and we have to think about the structure. And like, there's all of these things that are in our domain. We'd sort of like to have a trusted solution for the other. And it feels like every time you think you've got it, somebody comes along and rips the rug right out from under your feet, and you're like, well, now I'm back to the drawing board again. So we're going to run our own. I had some invitations from some people that have some other groups to send our people that way. I have trust issues like we talked about with Tesla. I don't want to send people somewhere that I can't necessarily verify or control. I can't control the messaging, right? Good or bad or ugly. I don't want someone to come along and sponsor the group and suddenly the message is completely different. So at least with this one, we can invite in the people we want to invite in and speak and hear from, and we can send them on their way when it's done. So there is all of that. So most of our 20 groups are $50 a month per rooftop. So that's not per person. So if you got a body shop and you got 50 people in that body shop, it's still $50 for you guys to be in that group. People who are the VIPs, those are $300 a month. You get all 6 groups, which means you can, if I'm the shop owner, I can take the refinishing and paint department class and send it to my painters, and the estimating class and send it to my estimators. And like, I can sort of divvy that up. My CPA or my body shop office financial person who's entering my invoices or whatever, she gets that class, like, or he gets that. That was very, I should not assume the gender of the body shop finances person. But whoever gets that information, but it's a great way to have monthly sort of training and coaching for the shops. VIPs also get time with me. You can schedule time. It's probably not a bonus, but if you want to just get on the phone and chat, like we can book that up. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. I have uh the make collision repair great again hats. And so I put this make collision repair great again. It's got collision up on the side of it. These hats are, I think I first released these hats in 2016. No, 2018. I first released these hats in 2018 at SEMA. We were, going around. We used them as a fundraiser. People paid $100 a hat, and we donated that money to CREF. But we've kept the hats in inventory. We keep ordering them. So I've got 30 hats that I have set aside right now. And the hats are $30. If you buy a hat for $30, you get one free month of the C20 group of your choice. So for October, there's still time to get in on some of the September classes, but you could choose whichever one. So of the six, you buy a hat for $30 and you can set in on 1 month for free the class of your choice. Now, what a bargain, right? Because if you were going to buy a C20 membership, it's $50 a month. By the way, it's cancel anytime. So if you don't like it, you're not locked into a year or 2 years. But just instead of just saying, hey, here's a free class and you guys can sign up and take it, you can buy a hat. When the 30 hats are gone, they're gone. So if you want to set in on a class, that could be my insurance and customer relations class where we talk about a lot of law stuff. It could be Larry's estimating class, could be Rachel's finance class, it could be this ADAS class that's going to be up next week. But instead of just spending $50 to try it out, spend $30, get a hat, save $20 on what you would have saved for the class. If you don't like the class, it's okay. You still get a pretty cool hat that you can wear. So there's 30 of those. When they gone, they gone, and that's all. That's all there is of it. Well, speaking of trust issues and my trust issues, I've been over the last 3 or 4 years, I've been really getting a bad taste in my mouth over OEM collision repair programs. It's more of a money grab by the OE, and I don't really feel there's much interest or concern about the consumer whatsoever in the programs, and it's sort of replayed over and over me. Well, if we go back a couple of weeks ago, there was a post online where several GM dealerships had noticed that they were suddenly not on the GM website, that they had no longer been included. So when they went in those markets and tried to find a certified GM repair facility, this particular poster said all he was seeing was Caliber locations. People began to chime in all over the country, and a lot of them reporting, hey, this isn't, our shops are gone. The Z06 certifications aren't showing either. One guy in Massachusetts said, well, everything looks fine in Massachusetts. So there was some going back and forth. As it began to play out, more and more things got said. So several Caliber store managers from varying locations around the country came on the post and started talking about how their shop is listed, but they're not actually GM certified. And I'm thinking, well, how the hell does that happen? How do you get on a program? And then it started making me think about like what Ford was doing, where Ford several years ago had listed all the Caliber stores on their program as well. And there was supposed to be like an honor code thing that went on. So as we dug into it, and more stores, they not only were posting, but we were getting private DMs on what was going on with the MSOs and the OEs. I decided to send just the questions to General Motors. So this is the email that I sent to the two people at the General Motors Collision Repair Program. I also copied John Eck, who had previously been over the Collision Repair Program, had gone over to the GM insurance side, but just this week or last week announced that he is retiring. So congratulations to John on a long-term career. But more interaction and time in these OE programs. There's so much turnover. John at least was a name that had been around for a while, and just say, hey, here are my questions. You guys obviously probably are aware of the collision post that got made. And then I know lots of dealerships were calling in and complaining, so they're very aware. The post comments focused on Caliber specifically. There could be other, and it says within the comments on these postings, several Caliber store managers and former Caliber employees made comments that have caused great concern within the industry, more specifically to the independent collision repairers that are on the GM certification program. So these are your Bob's Collision that's paying whatever $2,000+ a year to be on this program and listed. Now, one of the benefits you were supposed to get with that program, and we have a shop that we work with that says, yeah, I've gotten several referrals from being, like direct assignments of GM recommending my shop to people and those people showing up for repair. So that's one of the benefits. All right. Personally, Collision Hub has received an overwhelming amount of phone calls and messages regarding the GM Certified Collision Network. I wanted to provide them an opportunity to respond to the questions. So obviously, GM did not respond to me. I don't blame them. I probably wouldn't respond to me either. But because I don't have an explanation, I'm going to give you guys the same question I asked them, and then we're going to let the industry sort of discuss it. Or if you are a GM certified location, next time you talk to your GM rep, you can ask them these questions as well and see if they'll respond to you, because you are on the program. So they have more of a responsibility or an accountability to you than they have to a random social media based, website and podcast. So number one, all Caliber locations that choose can self-certify and self-audit. So we were told that, and this would also sort of apply to Ford, that the MSOs are allowed to self-certify. In other words, if you're not, let's say you want to be a GM certified, you sign up and somebody's going to come visit you, some sort of auditor, and they're going to walk through your shop and they're going to check and make sure you have equipment, and you're going to check and make sure you have, whatever training, if it's iCar, if it's their training, they're going to do all that kind of stuff. MSOs, particularly Caliber, does not have to do that. They are allowed to self-certify. In other words, they just get to go, yep, we did it. They're good. And self-audit. So they don't have the audit process like other shops have where you get audit visits. And this allows them to obtain and then maintain their GM certification. However, not all Caliber locations are GM certified, but we're listed on this program. So is that true? Didn't get an answer. What checks and oversight then, if this is true, so what checks and oversight are in place for GM to quality control Caliber self-certification? So if you're going to allow a large vendor to self-certify, that's not necessarily maybe a bad idea if I have some sort of checks and balances system in which I come back behind them and do some sort of verification process that they're actually doing the right thing. Are there other MSOs that are allowed to self-certify? So if Caliber's allowed to do this, is Crash Champions, is CarStar, are they allowed to self-certify? Is this just a one-off thing for Caliber? Whatever. Are there discounts offered to the MSO for this process? So if GM's not having to pay for somebody to go out and do the certification, because we had this rush in the industry of certification organizations, whether that was Assured Performance or DECRA, or now CCC wants to get into this business. Mitchell tried to get into it with General Motors. They were like, everybody thinks there's money to be made doing these OE certifications. So if the OE is not having to pay to have somebody visit all of these Calibers, was there some sort of financial discount? In other words, if I'm paying $2,000 as Bob's Collision Center to be GM certified, was Caliber only paying $1,000 a store to be GM certified? Number two, all Caliber locations certified and non-certified are listed within the GM website locator for certified collision centers. Is this true? So I had managers reach out to me that said their store was not GM certified. They had never had GM training, but they were listed on the GM website. So is obviously either those guys are lying to me or what. So is that true? And then I supplied them with, as you can see, hey, these are store managers telling me this. This isn't other shops in the market that are jealous and mad at, Caliber. These are Caliber store managers that are saying this. Number three, these listings allow Caliber locations to receive new customer referral assignments through GM, such as phone apps and in-car infotainment systems. In other words, customer referral generated from GM via an FNOL type process. So if we talk about the first notice of loss and FNOL, in other words, if the car self-reports it's been in some sort of incident and we have this pop-up screen, is the app recommending and showing consumers these non-certified calibers, these ones that aren't GM certified but happen to be on the list. Are customers being told that they should go to these shops? Are those references above and beyond the other shops that may be in the market? So if maybe I have Bob's Collision Center, that's the traditional old way of becoming certified. Like, are those the same? Does the system see and refer those the same? Because if I'm a body shop and I've paid money to be in a program, and I've paid training, and I've got this plaque in my office, and I did it because I thought it was going to help me get consumers, and I find out that there's a competitor in town that didn't have to do any of that, and they're getting the same referrals as I am, that would be disheartening, I think, to a lot of people that were holding out hope that these OE certified programs are going to help combat DRP. In other words, like the insurer sends claims to the DRPs, a lot of shops were holding out hope that this OE certification was going to sort of be a new version of a DRP where you would be elevated in a way. Number 4, if non-certified calibers are in the system, as reported by the store managers, is there programming that gives a true certified location within the needed service area priority to be referred? So that was my number 4 question, which that may make sense, right? Number 5, one Caliber store manager had stated that GM and Caliber had reached a parts purchase agreement so that Caliber could list all their stores. In other words, they're saying Caliber agreed to buy X number or percentage of OEM parts. And so because we're Caliber and we're buying so many OE parts, you, General Motors, should do this for me. Might not make bad sense if true certified locations were prioritized. So, okay, well, we'll list you, but we're going to prioritize. In a lot of ways, current DRP models prioritize other vendors over independents now. And we know this. We know the MSOs are prioritized over the independent collision center and the locator system, but maybe there was a chance for an OE to do something different. Number 6, one comment alleged that the agreement between Caliber and GM was footprint based to have service for the app in-car features. Basically, GM didn't have enough shops currently in their program to make a national thing, a national app work, and needed the footprint and chose Caliber due to the sheer volume of their locations. They are the largest MSO. They have more coverage across the country than anybody. Kind of a one-stop shop, and you got what, 1,900 or 1,800 stores or something now. If this is true, does GM plan to bolster the footprint by the adding of any other MSOs? And what criteria does the MSO have to meet to have a non-certified location listed? Those were the questions I sent into them based on the comments that were made on the post and had kept sort of reoccurring. One of the posting body shops came back. The being not on the website popped up before the Labor Day holiday. And the shop came back after the holiday and said, okay, everything's been corrected, and apparently we're back on now. But all those calibers were still there. And I think it's a legitimate question. And I understand the footprint. At one point, let's say you're an OE and you've only got 150 certified shops in your program. I can't launch a national service-based application with 150 body shops. In other words, like if you think about all the places that a General Motors customer is, right? It's a large selling brand. You think of like here in Arkansas, right? Like, like we sell a lot of GMs and a lot of people driving trucks and whatever. If you think about the vastness of that brand, and you're going to have a service that you're going to have on the infotainment system, so it's in the car or it's on the customer's phone or whatever, and you're going to tell them that you're going to have the service, you have to have a pretty robust network. And if you don't, you have customers that have losses in places where there's no shop. I'm sorry, we don't have a shop here. I'm sorry, the closest shop to you is 300 miles away or 200 miles away or whatever. And so it would make sense if somebody's going to build a program, and then as you start to build it, because you go, this is a great idea, and then you turn around and you look and you go, hey, but we only have 150 shops that are certified. I need a bigger footprint. It was alleged that artificial intelligence camera. It was alleged that the agreement for footprint based was made several years ago. So basically, the people that were currently running the GM program were not around when those decisions were made. I can't confirm or deny it because, well, obviously nobody wrote me back. I think in this industry, a lot of people believe that when you don't write back, stories just sort of go away. So this one is not going away. I think it's something that we have to talk about particularly for shops that have been paying. A lot of shops have been paying a lot of money for a lot of years to be on certified programs, and they don't have anything to show for it. So I did want to share a screenshot of the messaging that we get around those stores, those locations, etc. That I appreciate people for writing in. I appreciate people for going, "Hey, we didn't ask for this." I think a lot of the stores were like, "Please don't revolt and send people down in my parking lot or whatever. I have no control over this." So like it just shows up and it's there. Um, Now, let's talk about it. We went through the self-certification argument years ago. In my best memory, Ford was kind of the first one to do this to allow an MSO to self-certify. Um, and good, bad, ugly. A lot of people that are running around doing the OEM certifications aren't qualified. I've seen some OEs send the Weagle of people just to take pictures. Like finding a human being that wants to go visit a body shop that and then doing that for a certain dollar amount. I think at one point they were wanting to pay $100 for a shop visit. I'm not getting out of my pajamas for $100, like much less drive across town, go into a body shop, go in there, check off all their equipment. Yeah, there's no ROI on that. So finding people that have real true collision knowledge that want to do this, that's not easy to do. And that's one of the weak points for a lot of OE certification programs is that the people that you're trusting with your brand aren't qualified to be trusted with your brand, and they're probably signing off on shops or things that they shouldn't. We had a big stink years ago over the Honda program where shops were getting signed off on, and we'd go in there and they didn't have any equipment. It's like, how did you sign off? Or you'd have one guy that had one welder and suddenly he drove it all around town. Like it was just, there's just a lot of that. There's a lot of room for error. Um, could self-certification probably that's still room for error, but we went over this back and forth. The bad thing is that are there locations that are listed that customers are seeing that hadn't earned it, so to speak, like they didn't go through the same things that other independents had to go through, and they're not being audited or checked or validated in the same way that other independents are being audited and validated. I can understand from a business perspective an OE going, "Hey, we don't have footprint, Kristen. I can't. I mean, how am I supposed to have a system that helps customers find body shops after accidents when I only have 150 people on the program, right? Um, don't have the program. It's that simple. Like in the desperation to keep offering. I mean, we always talked about same with software. It's almost like people and in paint systems for tier one paint lines, but everybody feels like you constantly have to offer something new. You have to seem like you're always developing. And sometimes we develop things that we just shouldn't have never had. And that may be one of them, right? Like don't have the service. If you don't have the footprint, then don't have the service, but don't develop the service and then dilute the service by trying to have the footprint. And if I'm for a lot of shops coming up with that money yearly to renew your certification, that's not easy. And especially right now. Um, the some of these places that were writing into me, I had several other caliber locations write into me and said, "Hey, we're also on the Ford list, but we don't have any aluminum equipment. I don't even have an SBR gun. I've never seen one. I don't even know what it looks like." And I'm chuckling and I'm like, "What are you supposed to do if you get one of these?" He goes, "Well, the honor system says that if we got like a truck and it needed a bedside panel or whatever, we're supposed to send it somewhere else." And I'm like, in today's day and age, are people sending cars away, or are we maybe repairing something that should have been replaced because we know we can't replace it appropriately? So in our mind, we go, "Well, I'm not going to not replace it right, so I'll just over repair it." Or do we alternatively repair it? Which I've inspected a lot of Ford trucks that are some sad attempted MIG welding, some adhesive bonding, like different things to do. So very interesting. Like I said, I got no response from General Motors. I don't blame them for not responding to me. I'm not offended by not responding to me, but I just thought, well, okay, I'm going to ask the industry the same questions. Here they are. Here's what I asked General Motors. They never wrote back to me. Um, like to know what you think. If you're GM certified shop. How's this make you feel? Like, do you want to continue being certified? Do you still have value in it? Are you, and we got a shop up in Minnesota that says, hey, I get a lot of value out of it. I've had 4 or 5 cars sent to me. So he obviously feels it's worth it. So let us know comments. In the comments on wherever you're watching it, YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify, or if you're connected with it on our Facebook page or whatever, but just let us know what you think about it. Like I said, I personally am losing trust in pretty much every OE certified repair program at this moment, space and time. All right, let's keep going on with the hackers. Because everything seems to be coming down to hackers in this industry and things about it getting hacked. Well, Jaguar Land Rover was hacked a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And that hack shut down production in the UK, Slovakia, China, and India. As we know, Jaguar Land Rover is owned by Tata Motors out of India right now. But another hack, another, I guess, blackmail, so to speak, for your data and shutting your stuff down, hits part of the industry again. Just still, like I said, it's got me thinking a lot lately about one, we tell body shops, you're probably like sit down and talk to your attorney, particularly in states that have really updated or newly defined privacy laws and information and what you're supposed to be protecting. What if any, or are there new forms that we need to have signed? Basically, there's only so much I can do. I can't be perfect. I can't protect everything. And then what does that mean when a car's in the shop? Like should we be doing more to protect that car? Like I said, I'm really now, after reading more about the Starbucks Tesla thing, inclined to worry about somebody just pulling up in my parking lot, and in the middle of the night and trying to hack into cars that are inside the building or whatever. I don't know. It feels very Stephen King and Christine like right now. So. Lots to think about there. All right, well, let's move on to Copart. So I've had a long history with Copart. Quite honestly, my entire history with that company has been positive. I've never had a bad Copart thing, right? Like, whether, they did most all of our salvage at that time, very little with IAA. But I still am friends with my Copart rep. He's not with Copart anymore either, but I'm still friends with my Copart rep. Like, I honestly, I can't think of a negative experience I had with Copart. Now, if you ask my Copart rep, he can probably tell you a lot of negative experiences he had with me. But I never thought of Copart as a competitor until last week, when Copart's new CEO called Bodyshops competitors, and it made me think, oh, he's right. And I had to think about it. So Copart released their financials, and their quarter ended July 31st. I just want you to know that their revenue for the 3 months was $1.1 billion. That sort of hurts my soul a little bit. Like, there's literally more money in totaling cars than there is in fixing it. So let's think about that. Total loss is a business. So it's a business whether you want it to be or not. So you can be one of those shops that says, we don't make money totaling cars and we're not in the business to total cars. And I totally get all that. But total loss is a business. Whether you want to admit it or not, it's just going to be about who gets to make the money now. Either you're making the money or your competitor, Copart, is making the money. So insurance knows it's a business and has a cost. Copart knows it's a business and has a cost. Body shops, wake the hell up. Total loss is a business and it has a cost. And it cannot be a complete negative drain. It needs to be profitable. If there's something in your business that isn't profitable, you get rid of it, right? If we were a grocery store and I bought X number cases of this beverage and that beverage wasn't selling, I would never buy more of that beverage. I would say, I can't make money off of it. Fool me once, I'll lose money once, but I'm definitely not going to keep doing it. Not charging your total losses is as dumb as continuing to order something for your grocery store that never sells and you have to keep throwing out. But let's go to the report and some things he says. The higher the returns we generate, the more we can win the rights to resolve that claim versus the repair industry. All right. So when we talk about this total loss percentage increase, and it's here, right? The recent reports put total loss percentages of claims at around that 30 percentile mark right now. We know it's supposed to get somewhere in that 42 to 46, 47% by the end of 2026. Well, here you have a vendor that's basically telling you, I'm fighting to total cars and take them away from you, body shop. His job is to make it seem more beneficial for an insurer to total the car than it is to repair the car. As a body shop, that means you have to make money on both scenarios, because if I have a vendor over here, and by the way, Copart would be a very strong competitor, lots of resources, lots of history, lots of knowledge, lots of time. Like if you're going to compete against Copart as Bob's Auto Body Shop, whew, that's like fighting Tyson, so to speak. So if they're going to win the right to resolve the claim, which, like, the fact that Copart's thinking of themselves as part of the claims process, a little scary. From I'm like, you sell my salvage. That's all you do, boo. That's it. That's your role. Like, I resolve claims. You sell broke stuff for a discounted price. And if there's a balance left over, I get that money back. You keep your fees. Now Copart is interjecting themselves as part of the claims process. Wake up, shops. Like, if you, there's a reason the insurance industry had them buying all kinds of property a couple of years ago. The lower the returns we generate, the more we lose head to head against the repair shops as well. So Copart's working hard to get the most maximum amount of return on the salvage. Now, pay attention to that, because when we talk about constructive total losses, can an insurer just total any car they want to? Yes, but no. That's the beauty of constructive total losses. As a fiduciary, what I do has to make financial sense and has to be thought of through the eyes and benefits of the consumer first, not my own. So there are ways to prevent a constructive total loss if you play the cards right. But that's Copart wants to get those returns up, meaning if the returns didn't have to be there, if an insurer could just do whatever they wanted, then Copart wouldn't have to worry about returns. They would just be getting all the business. But when you have a CEO telling you, I've got to get good returns so that we can compete against body shops, so that we get more cars totaled and less cars repaired, then you know that the value of that salvage, or in other words, the math of the claim, has to play out. In his quote, I think we still have a lot of conviction that if we deliver excellent auction returns and deliver excellent service, in other words, we're expediting the claim cycle, retrieving cars very quickly from where they sit, especially when they accrue storage. It means interacting with policyholders very effectively. Why is Copart talking to policyholders? I'm going to need Copart to explain that one. Does anybody on Copart want to chime in? You sell my salvage, boo boo. Like, I'll let you call the body shop and have a conversation with them on pickup, but why are you talking to policyholders? That one is one I need a little bit more information on. And interacting with policyholders very effectively, and particularly on the title procurement, which we're going to talk about in Michigan's case here pretty quickly. Bottom line, the company continues to compete with collision repair shops for business as repairs become less attractive. Now, Copart doesn't give it about the consumer. Copart, when we say repairs become less attractive, they're talking about insurance companies thinking repairs become less attractive. Okay, so this is loaded. And this one, when you read these things, you've got to pick them apart. I saw one of our industry publications post this. And no one in the industry lost their shit when they read this story, which blew my mind. Like, it's like it went way over your head. You have a vendor, Copart, who comes in and out of your shop probably on a regular basis, calling you about storage and fees and all of these things, that sees you as a competitor. Do not let them have access or interaction or data or information that might cause you a detriment. In other words, I don't release any fees until the customer tells me to. And then when I do, I release them only with a condition. What are you going to do with this information? Why would I even need to give it? Are you coming to pick it up? What is it? Knowing that probably that person at Progressive only has a certain amount, at Copart has a certain amount of authority and is going back to somebody within an insurer's total loss room. Like, these guys are having a discussion. Copart wants it totaled. They want the car. They want to sell it. That's how they make their money. In fact, that's how they make $1.1 billion in 3 months, right? Like, way more profit in totaling a car than fixing one. And all you body shops say there's more profit in fixing a car than totaling one. Seems you're wrong and Copart is correct, right? Treat them like a competitor. because clearly they've just thrown the gauntlet down and told you that they are. But when we talk about making things less attractive to an insurer, there's a lot there. There's a lot of liability. There's a lot of litigation potential. There's a lot of things on a repairable that doesn't exist on a total loss. I used to tell my adjusters, like, when in doubt, total it out. That was our, favorite slogan, meaning a total loss car doesn't come back to bite me in the ass unless it's a total loss evaluation lawsuit. But other than that, that one doesn't come back to haunt me. So there were certain cars that after certain information would come forward and the adjuster would come and sit down in my office, I would go, we should get rid of this one. And we would have to do the math, and we had a little worksheet and whatever. But as vendors, whether that's Copart or IAA, I'd never had a bad experience with IAA either. They were great to work with. Whether it's Copart or IAA, trying to convince insurance companies that totaling cars is the way to go. You'll make more money totaling them because we're going to get you these great returns. You'll pay less than you will for repairing a car. What they're selling them, this magic that's, yes, cost of repairs are going up, but then I got this vendor over here that's kind of like the little voice in the ear going, yeah, 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 just total it. Just total it. No supplements, no complaints, no warranty issues. No, nothing of that stuff happens when you total it. And now, like, Copart's kind of owning up to it. So shops, I don't know what else to do. Like, I don't know. I know 6 years ago when I started screaming Chicken Little and the sky's falling on total losses and it's going to be this 47% and all this stuff, and everybody was like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. I totally get that. But here we are. We're already at 30. We only have another year to go before we hit that 40th plus percentile of reported claims or total losses. That's over half. I mean, that's like half the business of repairables are gone. So if you say we don't make money on total losses, what the hell are you going to make money on? Because you're already losing repairables. You're already seeing that drawdown and what's happening. It's already affecting, MSOs and people that are on DRPs because they're not making money on totals and there's less repairables for them to work on. Total losses have to be a value. They have to be a revenue driver within your collision repair center. They just have to. Like, I'm Rachel James is the finance expert on our team. Like, I struggle to balance my checkbook. I struggle with math. I fully admit it, right? Like, it's not my benefit. It's not one of my strong puts, but I know that I have to maintain a certain revenue to maintain operations, whether that's, paying the rent, paying the light bill, paying the whatever. So I need to make money on total losses. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we put what we called the Coffee Talk bundle on sale. Melanie went behind my back and marked it down a little bit more. She's taken $300 plus added another class to it. So you can call Melanie and she will get you the total loss class, which is, I want to say there's a couple of classes in that where we go through the total loss process. I would call it the modern total loss process for collision repair. Then there's a template class where we talk about templating communications and forms and legal and all of that stuff. And then there is now a constructive total loss class. I was getting so many, I don't want to say complaints, but so many people were calling me and going, this car is only got like 20% of the ACV and the insurance companies want to total it and the customer doesn't want it to total. They bought it during, in the period post-COVID when car loans were maybe 3%, and now a car loan may be up to 11%. So it's not good for them to be in the car market right now. So I started getting so many constructive total loss questions. We made a class for it. So those 3 classes are in there, and then Melanie's taking $300 off of it. I'm still considering whether I'm going to need to find somebody to take her place if she's going to keep marking my classes down. I'm fully fine with her discounting Larry's stuff as much as she wants to, because that's Larry's money. And, it's not my circus, not my monkey, but you start discounting my classes and I'm thinking, dude, like, come on, don't bite the hand that feeds you, so to speak. But Melanie's got a bundle class that basically covers, but total losses, folks, like this. I'm not mad at Jeff. Jeff's just saying what I don't think body shops over the years have fully understood, that you have you have all of these vendors that go to the insurer and fight against you. You've got your salvage vendors. They don't hate you. They got their own, that's their business, and they want the cars and they want total losses. You got software companies that are, pushing different. IA tools that cut things and tell insurance companies that they can save them money and, cost them less on claims or whatever. But you've got all this stuff working against you. You can't just get along anymore. And I know it's scary to fight back. And it's like, hell, I've got so many scars from all the years of me fighting back, because every time I raise my little hand, somebody wants to play whack-a-mole. And sometimes I'm bigger and I can survive the whack-a-mole, and sometimes I get hit and it costs me some money, or it costs me a client, or it costs me, whatever. But so no, this isn't a utopia where, there's always a cost for speaking your mind and standing up for things. But I don't see a way forward at all for any collision repair shop that does not turn total losses into a profit center. I think you got about maybe 6 more months. If you don't figure it out, we're going to see a lot more shops closing. We have a lot of shops closing now, but we're going to see more. All right, let's talk about the Michigan Department of Insurance. Okay, so this claim, and please forgive me, because everything in my brain is still a claim. I know that, for non-insurance, it's not a claim, but everything in my brain is still a claim. Okay. Cure Auto Insurance is going to pay this man's total loss, so $75,000. It was like the Hellcat SUV, basically. So here's the crazy thing. And as I read through this one, I was like, this can't be happening. Like, how is this happening? Like, so guy files his claim. Adjuster calls him, basically goes through it. Kind of the typical, yeah, we're going to get your vehicle moved. We're going to get this taken care of. We'll make an offer. We'll get it settled or whatever. So the guy authorizes the vehicle to go to wherever it was taken from or taken to. He signs the paperwork for transfer of title so the insurer can put the title in their name. And then after that, the insurer goes, yeah, we've decided not to cover your claim. In this case, they said it was because I believe one of his kids were driving, and they didn't say that he disclosed that the children would be driving this car with his Hemi in it or whatever. Okay, well, that's not necessarily like, obviously, but there's a right-hand, left-hand problem in insurance right now. It used to be you filed a claim, and me had it all. So I owned this file, and I owned every coverage that was under this file. So I had the liability, I had the physical damages, I had the rental car coverage. Like, I was responsible for everything, which meant I was able to see the big picture. Now in claims, you have what we call the complex loss adjusters, and those are the people over here, and they get to make coverage decisions and do investigations and stuff. You have the physical damage department over here, and they're basically just processors. They're trying to get customers to go to body shops, get estimates, do whatever. You got a total loss department that's a completely other group of people. And these independent silos can sometimes get ahead of themselves or behind. I had one recently that it's going to be a major litigation. And there's millions and millions of dollars on the table. And the total loss department let the car get sold before the engineers and before and then it gets, and so now I have the team over here that's working with attorneys and in-house outside counsel or whatever, and they get to a meeting and they're like, yeah, okay, well, here's what we're going to need to be done in the car. And I'm just over in the corner like sipping my coffee very quietly and going, well, that's going to be a problem. And they go, why? I go, because your total loss department sold the car 6 months ago. So lots of errors that are happening because there's just too many hands in the bucket. But this is a car that they denied the coverage to, but then sold the man salvage, but then didn't give him the money. So they take his title. He moves the car. They get him to sign the paperwork. They get the title in their name. They then call him and say, yeah, no coverage. But then they sell his car and get like $25,000 or so of salvage value back and keep the money. So I'm thinking, that can't happen. Like, who thought that was a good idea? Of course, the insurer was going, oh, it must have been some sort of mistake, but they managed to pay off the loan and get the title. I mean, like, they did all of that stuff. So it can't, at some point, how was it a mistake? I do believe that there are a lot of hands in the kitchen, and right, left, middle's not talking to each other. And I see a lot of this now, like in this effort to try to like process it because some consultant came in and told you, if you do this, it'll be faster. We're making so many mistakes. So anyway, this guy got an attorney, and an attorney got involved. They went through the Department of Insurance. Good news. It's all sorted out. He got his money for his claim and his ACV and all of those things. But what was interesting is the Department of Insurance came in and issued some statements of what insurers can and can't do when it comes to taking possession of salvage and doing some things, which that was interesting. But what I thought was really great um, is that you had a probably none of this happened without the Detroit News investigation. So you had a journalism, God bless the real journalists that are still left, but get involved here. Here's what we found, or what the journalists found, is that the number of consumer complaints against this auto insurer had experienced a disproportionately high number of complaints for a carrier that size, ranking them second in complaints for 2024 and fourth statewide in 2023. So, fourth isn't good enough. Let's get those numbers up and take second place. Shops. For all of you saying insurance complaints don't matter, please shut up. Please just stop. You clearly don't know what you're talking about. And I know you feel like, well, we file complaints, Kristen, and nothing happens. I need more shops, more consumers, more people filing complaints because they come into play when when something happens. It may not be instantaneously you file a complaint and you get the answer or the resolution you want, but they do matter. Now they kind of don't matter if it's just one or two shops in the state and all the complaints seem to come from them. We're going to label them as trouble, but across states, getting consumers to file complaints sets up what we need for business practice audits. And that's something the Department of Insurance can do. And in this case, the Department of Insurance went and looked at those complaints as well, and they found out that it was a pattern. This guy's claim wasn't the only one that had happened to, that there was a pattern of people that were allowing their cars to be moved. As soon as the insurer had it, they were telling them there was no coverage, but then the customers weren't getting their cars back or getting the money or getting whatever. And it was through those complaints that you're able to track that down. Now you can go in and do a business audit and you can make the insurer turn over every file that you denied coverage on, or every file that you took possession of a vehicle. Or, I mean, there's ways that you could try to go find other people, but they were able to use those complaints. So please, 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 please encourage consumers, because it does mean more when the complaints come from. Encourage consumers to file a complaint. That's what your taxes are for in that state. You have those things, and they get flooded with complaints on health insurance and a little more on homeowners, but mostly health insurance. But if there's not a pattern of behavior, then it makes it hard when a lot of things happen. Sometimes it's even just trying to get a bill passed. So if your state's wanting to pass a bill on mandatory right to appraisal or something, having those complaints and being able to go into a meeting with a committee, whether it's a House or Senate committee in your state, and being able to go, hey, it's this is something we need, and here's the citizens of our state saying the same thing over and over through the complaints that they've filed. So kudos to Michigan Department of Insurance. That one was crazy. I can't believe that it was a pattern. I mean, to me, okay, a one-off mistake, but suddenly it became a pattern. You have a lot of adjusters, and we're going to use that term really loosely right now. And that's not their fault but they have a title that they didn't earn. And the insurance company probably shouldn't call them that because they're not trained and they don't have real mentorship and guidance. And, I asked one guy the other day, I said, did you have by chance have to take an ethics class? Literally didn't know what ethics was. Could not explain that. I'm like, okay, all right, well, that's a good start. Now I know where we're at, but not their fault where they are. But you got a lot of them that come up with these ideas that they think it's personal. They think they have to get back at a body shop, or they have to get a consumer, or I think that consumers lying to me, so I'm just not going to pay their claim. Like, they don't understand how to think bigger. It's not about you, boo-boo. It's about the customer and the customer first. It's not about the shop. I agree. I hate that shop too, but it's not about them. It's about the customer. The body shop's just sort of a figure that's standing there. They don't matter in a lot of ways. But we have more and more incidences where people are trying to do things, and I really think it comes down to their own KPIs. Like, they're trying to, make sure that they're going to get their raises or not stay in trouble. So they're manipulating claims to manipulate the numbers. But so we really need those Department of Insurance complaints. And then, like I said, if you're one of those people that are going around telling people not to file them and it doesn't matter, I'm just going to need you to shut up, or just leave the industry or do something. But we've got a lot of things. Like, I feel like there's not a lot of time left to sort of, I don't want to say save this industry, but but save our way of life, so to speak, for so many of us that make our living here. And this is all we know. There's people that come into this industry as salesmen, and they can go somewhere else as a salesman or whatever. And that may be my paint company people or my whatever. But there's a group of people that this is multi-generational. This is all we know. We don't, this is who we are. It's not just what we do for a living, but this is who we are. And so our chance to sort of not save, but maybe sustain or maintain that really is going to come down to, post repair inspections, Department of Insurance complaints, using RTA as a documentation of systematic, intentional denial of things that are owed. Like we've got to build the cases. We can't sit back and go, somebody should really do something about all of this. So basically, time to get to work, so to speak. And no more sitting around and hoping that your state associations are not going to save you. It's going to come down. Your national associations aren't going to do a damn thing to save you either. So it's basically you're going to have to get on it. All right, let's talk about what's on the shelf. Okay, so this one's a little bit more involved. I got the coolest gift. It's technically on my shelf right now, but it is going to my it's going to my vehicle. So I have got a car that would qualify as like an overlander, so it's got safari racks and it's got all that. And I have jerry can cases on it for water, gas, etc. And so this was a really cool gift because somebody really, really thought about it. So it is a jerry can. However, and it fits perfectly in my rack on my vehicle, but it is actually a bar. So a customized bar. Obviously I love Jack Daniels. So they took the time, personalized, got my name in there. Cigar cases that are sized for my favorite cigar. I've got 2 bottles of Jack. Really cool little speaker and have some music. Glasses, a place for my cutters and everything for my cigars and all of that. So just like a super cool gift. Very like really well thought of. It was a thank you for a case recently. But yeah, so I was kind of torn. I thought that I wanted to like keep it in here, but it's too tall for my shelves. And then my kid drives the Tahoe now. It's not going to take it to college. I'll get it back and I'll go back into overlanding, which for that, it's just old people that drive around in a car for a little bit on dirt roads and then pull over and drink. It's a great club. I highly recommend it to as a sport or a hobby to anyone. I was going to take golf up again, but that's like sweating and a lot of labor. Um, so yeah, no, I'll do that. But anyway, very, very cool. And so yeah, that's what's on the shelf. All right. Well, I hope everybody has a fantastic week. We're getting to the close of the year. For those of you that have made it this far into September, congratulations. I think a lot of us in January weren't sure we were gonna, we didn't know September was gonna be possible, right? So we're feeling pretty good about that. And then don't forget, if you want to try out one of our 20 groups for free, well, you can go online and order your Make Collision Repair Great Again hat. $30 for the hat, get a class for free. And then if you don't like the class, well, at least you got a hat to keep. There's only 30 of them though. So when those 30 are gone, those 30 free classes or free admissions are gone. And if we can do anything to help you, well, obviously reach out to Melanie or Holly because they're way more organized than I am. They keep me sane. You can shoot an email to us or Melanie at collisionhub.com, or just drop a comment or send us a DM on social media. And if there's anything we can do to help, we will sort through that. And I will see you next Monday on Coffee Talk. Bye, everybody.